As we finally come to FNAF's 10-year anniversary, it's about time we look back on some of FNAF's most prolific mysteries, with none more prevalent than the identity of Golden Freddy. If you've watched any amount of FNAF theories at this point, you've seen the bright and flashy theory thumbnails with Golden Freddy front and center from just about everyone. But with all that, what do we really know about Golden Freddy? First, let's go over what about Golden Freddy is confirmed. Golden Freddy, being a secret 5th animatronic in the first game, is known to be haunted by the 5th missing kid of the Missing Children's incident, which happened on June 26, 1985, smack dab in the middle between 1983 and 1987. Speaking of 1987, by typing 1987 into the FNAF 1 Custom Night menu, players are treated to a loud Golden Freddy jump scare before the game crashes. This Easter egg deliberately draws a connection between Golden Freddy and the year 1987. So what exactly does Golden Freddy have to do with FNAF 2? Well, I suspect two things that go hand in hand. In FNAF 2, William, who uses an alias to get the night and later day shift position at the new Freddy's location, manages to take another 5 victims, which we see in the Save Them minigame. But what's important here is what we don't see. From Phone Guy's calls, we learn that William used a spare golden suit for this set of murders, but it's not the one you might expect. We learned in FNAF 3 that as of 1985, after the Missing Children's incident, the safe rooms at all Freddy's locations were being sealed. But what you might have missed is that the Spring Bonnie suit was still left inside. Considering the safe rooms were being sealed in the first place to avoid liability and hide the evidence, it makes sense to seal away the very suit used in those murders. So that begs the question of what golden suit was still around in FNAF 2. Well, it's the Golden Freddy suit, one we know has a connection to 1987 and even appears in the Save Them minigame. That might sound like a pretty cut and dry explanation, but it turns out there's still one more part of this that most theorists might not know. Take a look at Withered Golden Freddy. It's clear that he uses the same base as Withered Freddy, but instead of being an exact yellow clone, he's missing his left ear. Now compare that to regular Golden Freddy, who's just a carbon copy of Freddy. Clearly there's something different about these two Golden Freddys, and I think I know what. In FNAF 1, Golden Freddy's just a carbon copy of regular Freddy because this Golden Freddy doesn't actually exist. Now, let me be a bit more clear. What I mean by that is that as of FNAF 1, the Golden Freddy suit no longer exists. In FNAF 2, if William really used the Golden Freddy suit for a new set of murders, you'd think they'd want to dispose of it as quick as possible, just like they did with Spring Bonnie. When the FNAF 2 location closes, they don't just destroy the toys, but Withered Golden Freddy as well, which is why in FNAF 1, he's an exact imitation of Freddy. While Withered Golden Freddy was a distinct animatronic with differences from Withered Freddy, Golden Freddy has to fall back on basic Freddy's design since he no longer has his own. Though based on that, I'm guessing at this point, a bigger question than how this works is how Golden Freddy even exists at all in FNAF 1. If the suit's destroyed, shouldn't Golden Freddy be destroyed too? Well, not exactly, and why that is an incredibly important piece to understanding how Golden Freddy truly works. Let's turn to a kid named Michael Brooks, who some of you might know is the spirit possessing Golden Freddy, though not in the games. In the novel trilogy, and just like in FNAF 2, William used the Golden Freddy suit to kidnap Michael Brooks, the 5th child of the Missing Children's incident, who ended up stuffed inside Golden Freddy. In the Silver Eyes and the Twisted Ones, it's made clear that the Golden Freddy suit does truly exist, having been left with the rest of the animatronics when the restaurant was sealed away in 1985. Interestingly though, this pattern is broken in the trilogy's final novel. In the 4th closet, William is able to gather up the original animatronics, melting them into some sort of amalgamation. However, Golden Freddy is nowhere to be found. Despite this, Michael Brooks still appears with the rest of the melded spirits, a set of 5 kids tied together despite only 4 suits being present. How this works is that Golden Freddy doesn't simply haunt a suit, but the missing children themselves, and we can find this exact idea hidden in the very games that sparked it. Before that though, let's go over a part of the 4th closet I left out. We already know about how William melts the endoskeletons of the original 4 animatronics together, but what we missed is what he uses them for. In the 4th closet, William uses this melted together mess of spirits to collect Molten Remnant, a substance capable of bringing life to the inanimate. and what does he do with it but pour it right into the fun times? Now, think about Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, where we come face to face with none other than Molten Freddy, a cobbled together amalgamation of endoskeletons that's literally dripping molten remnant. In Sister Location, one of the biggest questions that game left us with was who was haunting the Funtime animatronics, and now we know exactly who. Just like the fourth closet, William collected the endoskeletons of the original missing children, melting them together and putting their remnant straight into the Funtimes. In Pizzeria Simulator's Insanity ending, Henry described this as putting them to new purpose in ways he never thought imaginable. This is also exactly why Henry knows Molten Freddy is the most important element of paragraph 4. It's because Funtime Freddy, Foxy, and Ballora contained the remnant of those original kids, now in one single vessel as Molten Freddy after kicking out Baby. Speaking of, have you ever really given thought to Ennard kicking out Circus Baby? In the lead up to the reveal of this teaser of Scrap Baby, the source code of both Scott Games and FNAFworld.com began to have a conversation which we know to be between Circus Baby and the rest of Ennard. In this conversation, Ennard collectively decides to kick out Circus Baby, which is why they're separate as of Pizzeria Simulator. But it's the why of why this happened that's so important here. One line from Ennard about outnumbering Baby might not be about the actual Funtimes like we first thought. It's true there are more Funtimes in Ennard than Circus Baby, but this is probably in reference to the fact that a whole pack of missing children undoubtedly outnumbers Elizabeth, deciding to eject her instead of letting her boss them around anymore. Even more interesting than that though is the fact that in this conversation there are exactly 5 lines from Ennard, just like the 5 missing kids. But is that a coincidence or intentional? Basically, how do we really know that Golden Freddy's also in Molten Freddy? Well, first let's get into who exactly this Golden Freddy is. In the games, Golden Freddy is possessed by the 5th missing child, just like every other Golden Freddy, but unlike the others, something very different happens in the games. In Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, we can unlock the Lore Keeper ending, which shows a hillside with 6 graves. It's confirmed that these are the graves of the missing children and Charlotte, ultimately revealing their names as a fitting conclusion to their story. What's interesting here though is that Golden Freddy's name is obscured by tall grass, leaving that as one of FNAF's final mysteries for theorists. That was until the survival logbook, which the Freddy Files specifically teases as containing the name of the 5th missing child. Through some code solving, the survival logbook ultimately reveals that unlike the other Golden Freddy spirits so far who have been boys, the game's Golden Freddy is actually a girl named Cassidy. Cassidy even later appeared in the 4th closet, in this universe described as a girl with long black hair possessing Bonnie, though the 4th closet graphic novel ended up butchering this description. From there, many astute fans noticed this black-haired girl being given cake by the puppet on a page about Happiest Days, drawing an immediate connection to Cassidy's attempted Happiest Day in FNAF 3. Based on that, it's been agreed that this is the best look at an official Cassidy design we have. Into the Pit might end up giving us the first official design for Cassidy if we end up meeting her in the game, but for now we'll be sticking to this design. Anyways, the question we're asking here is how we know Cassidy is in Molten Freddy, and the answer to that just so happens to be present in that very same grave hillside. After the discovery of this ending, theorists immediately connected it back to the bad ending of FNAF 3, where the order of the heads aligns perfectly with the names of the missing children, confirming their identities. The secret of this, though, isn't in its connection to the graves, but what the bad ending actually meant. Take another good look at Molten Freddy real quick, and notice the fact that he only has one lit eye. Now look back at FNAF 3's bad ending, a scene of 5 animatronic heads, all with one singular eye lit up for each, all with the same lit eye as Molten Freddy. Molten Freddy is the bad ending, an ending where the children's souls still remained, with all 5 now housed in Molten Freddy, including Cassidy. It seems FNAF 3 was setting this idea up from the very start, even in its night end minigames where William ends up dismantling the animatronics. Notice that after William destroys the animatronics, all that's left is their costume pieces, no endoskeletons in sight, just like in FNAF 3. At the time, this may have been unintended, but it's clear Pizzeria Simulator made this detail much more important. Back to Henry's Insanity ending speech, when talking about setting the animatronics to new purpose, he mentions William luring them all back to a familiar place with familiar tricks. This being in reference reference to how he first lured the missing children to the safe room where he killed them is an exact match to FNAF 3, where William lures the animatronics back to the safe room once again, only to dismantle them. Based on this, it's theorized that those minigames are the exact moments William took the 4 animatronic endoskeletons he used Remnant from for the fun times, melted together just like we saw in Help Wanted. However, after returning on the 5th night, obviously there was no Golden Freddy endoskeleton for William to collect, but despite this, Cassidy still appears with the pack of other spirits, cornering William in the safe room. That right there is the earliest example of Cassidy sticking with the pack, despite not having her own physical endo. So, if we've gathered that Cassidy follows the pack, by that logic she'd also follow them to their new home in Sister Location. So where is Cassidy in Sister Location? Well, it's almost like there's another Freddy endoskeleton in Sister Location that behaves exactly like Golden Freddy in the custom night that's a yellow variant of its base counterpart. That's right, Yendo is Cassidy, sticking with the pack by haunting another vessel. So far we've discussed who Golden Freddy is, how he works, and why he's stuck with the others all the way into Molten Freddy, which has been a lot. But we've still got one more big loose end to tie up that might change everything. Let's go back to FNAF 3, where I explained how Molten Freddy is basically just the manifestation of the bad ending. What I didn't talk about is the good ending, and essentially why Happiest Day didn't even work. In FNAF 3, we can unlock the Happiest Day minigame, which seems to show the passing on of Charlotte and the 5 missing kids, with Cassidy receiving her happiest day. Evidently though, this minigame wasn't so cut and dry, as Pizzeria Simulator made it clear the missing children hadn't truly moved on yet. So did that mean Happiest Day never happened? Well, not exactly. For a while, theorists attempted moving Happiest Day along the timeline, moving it anywhere from after Pizzeria Simulator, Ultimate Custom Nights, or even the Stitch Wraith. But what if I told you that we didn't have to move it at all? Happiest Day still happens during FNAF 3, it just doesn't work how we all thought it did. At the time of FNAF 3, Happiest Day definitely was about the kids being freed, but one of FNAF's most glossed over games undoubtedly changed that interpretation, and the game that did that was none other than FNAF World. In FNAF World's clock route, we are tasked with putting the pieces in place for the secret minigames of FNAF 3 to take place, though we're not exactly doing this for the missing kids. 8-Bit Fredbear in both the beginning and end of the game is undoubtedly talking to the crying child, and now that we've put the pieces in place for him, it'll be possible for him to be put back together. We know that the crying child's memories are scattered across the 5 missing children, which is visualized in FNAF 3's minigames, each having a connection to one of the crying child's memories. By putting these memories back together, we aren't freeing the missing kids, but the crying child himself. That's why he's never really come back up again past FNAF 3. It's because that was when he was put back together, and after that, all that was left was the 6 missing kids needed to do it. So if FNAF 3 really wasn't when the kids were freed, then when was it? Well, let's take a closer look at one of FNAF's biggest endpoints in the series, Ultimate Custom Night. By the time of Ultimate Custom Night, it's clear that almost all the enemies in the game are nothing more than memories, but one character we know for a fact is actually there is Golden Freddy. In Ultimate Custom Night, if we set Old Man Consequences to 1 and do his minigame, we're transported to his lake like in his ending of FNAF World. Considering we're a bear sprite, it's pretty clear that we play as Cassidy here, being told by Old Man Consequences to rest our own soul. Presumably, just like in FNAF World, resting our own soul means drowning ourselves in the lake, which in FNAF World leads to a screen titled Happiest Day. In Ultimate Custom Night, doing this just crashes the game, but that's not all we can learn from this. In Ultimate Custom Night, unlike FNAF World where it was called Happiest Day, this minigame is titled Your Own Happiest Day. Both FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night use the same data for this minigame, which is how doing this ending in Ultimate Custom Night can unlock an achievement all the way in FNAF World. And now we know exactly why. Drowning in the lake is your own happiest day. In both FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night, 2 different points on the timeline, Cassidy has the option to free herself, not like in FNAF 3, but by drowning herself, reaching her own happiest day. This whole time, Cassidy's happiest day was hidden in FNAF World, and not FNAF 3. But we still haven't answered the ultimate question I've been building up to this entire time. Why might Golden Freddy not even exist? Well, with all this amount of context laid, I can begin to explain a theory conspiracy years in the making, and it all has to do with this Red Bear sprite. But first, let's change subject. let's talk about the final Golden Freddy of the FNaF franchise. In the FNaF movie, we see another iteration of the missing children, now headed by this blonde boy possessing Golden Freddy who we don't even have a name for yet. With how simple and condensed down the FNaF movie is, there isn't a whole lot out of the ordinary about this Golden Freddy kid, compared to any of the others. But astute theorists might have noticed one tiny detail in the movie that could change everything. In the FNaF movie, the missing kids are all tied together by this one drawing, very similarly to the novel trilogy, which seems to be the fake memory that keeps them under William's control. Now, let's pause. Do you notice what's wrong with this drawing? This is not the 5 missing children. This is the 4 missing children and Garrett. The Golden Freddy kid is nowhere to be found. Even in the drawing that Abby makes at the end of the movie, it's still the 4 missing kids and Garrett. The Golden Freddy kid is not there. So what's going on here? Well, surprisingly, something like this also happened in one of FNaF's most recent games. In FNaF Help Wanted 2, there are a series of levels that allow us to unlock these 6 plushies, representing the 6 missing kids, which unlocks the secret Princess Quest ending. And each level with a plush makes sure to have a deliberate connection to that missing kid. We get Gabriel in Fazerblast, Fritz in Foxy's Log Ride, Jeremy in Bonkabon, Susie in Chica's Fazbear Theater, and the puppet in the sister location private room. As a better explanation of how that last one works, the puppet can be unlocked by inputting the code 1983 into a keypad, just like we did all the way back in sister location, which seems to finally confirm that Charlotte was indeed killed in 1983. That seems to be her connection to this level. All that leaves is the Golden Freddy plush, which can strangely be found in the Fizzy Faz minigame. Fizzy Faz doesn't seem to have any inherently obvious connections to Golden Freddy, so where I think we're gonna find that link is instead the process we use to unlock the plush itself. On Fizzy Faz Night 3, if you fill the soda cup with each of the 4 available flavors, crack a separate soda can on the desk and pour that in too, then finally lock down the office and trash the soda, you'll be gifted the Golden Freddy plush from Glitchtrap. But the bigger question about that is what exactly all that even meant. Well, think back to the FNaF movie. We have this one page made up of the 4 missing children and Garrett. And now what do we see in Help Wanted 2? We take 4 ingredients symbolizing the 4 missing kids, mix in a separate soda can, maybe the crying child, and we get Golden Freddy. What I'm gonna say that might sound insane is what if Golden Freddy might not even exist? What if Golden Freddy was never a real kid in the first place, and whatever they are was created from the missing kids and the crying child, 5 becoming 1 to make Golden Freddy? That might sound insane, and I sure as hell know it does, but I've got one last strand to pull on that might be able to change everything we thought we knew about Golden Freddy. Out of all the Golden Freddy theories out there, this is not one you hear every day. Obviously, it would be insane to think that one of the core characters of the FNaF franchise was never even a real kid in the first place, but there is still one loose thread in FNaF's most overlooked game that still hasn't been solved that could tie this all together. In FNaF World, we play as this Freddy sprite, commonly referred to as Red Bear based on its appearance in Old Man Consequences. We've agreed so far that based on the Your Own Happiest Day connection to Ultimate Custom Night, Red Bear is Cassidy, and that would mean that we play as Cassidy in FNaF World, putting the pieces in place for the crying child. Now, it's still completely up for debate who's giving Cassidy these instructions throughout the game as 8-Bit Fredbear, be it the puppet, Shadow Freddy, or even William. The identity of 8-Bit Fredbear does not matter here, but what does matter is what 8-Bit Fredbear says to the player, specifically one line. Yes, the world beneath the surface world. This is a safe place, a sanctuary. The truth is that there is no safe place. You don't understand that. You are made for one thing. You were made for one thing. This is the line that has been in the back of my head for the last 5 years. We were made for one thing. This sort of line doesn't make any sense to a normal spirit unless we were never real in the first place. We were made for one thing, and that thing was putting the crying child back together. Cassidy does it in FNaF World, and now I'm predicting we'll see the Golden Freddy kid do this exact thing in the FNaF movies. It's no wonder Garrett replaces the Golden Freddy kid in the drawings. It's because that kid never existed in the first place, but somehow he was made from Garrett, for Garrett, and to free Garrett. I don't know how this is possible. I don't know how something like this could even happen, and I certainly don't know how a kid that wasn't even real could go missing in the first place. But I think with this, I'm somehow on the right track. Remember, this is just a prediction, but that doesn't mean you can't keep an eye out for something fishy going on with Golden Freddy going forward. Who knows, maybe Into the Pit will drop a bomb on this, be it the good way or not so good way. Either way, that was how Golden Freddy might not even exist. By the time this video releases, Into the Pit should be just around the corner, so make sure to keep an eye out for theories about that game soon. But until then, take care and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.